que ça va aller là-dedans. C'est plus un peu un exemple pour illustrer. Mais si jamais I got you back. Ouais, bien sûr.
Tu l'as présenté depuis toi
À certains endroits et moments.
Did someone put bags to the side somewhere?
Yeah, I think it's there.
Sérieux, hein. D'un coup, j'ai un truc intelligent à dire. Tu l'as.
Ouais, tu l'as toi. Ouais, c'est ça.
Ça me fait basse.
Essayé depuis quelques années là.
Ouais, genre de ça. Non, puis si je me lance, si je fais du maquis qui m'aime bien, ça me détend.
Okay, I think we're good. Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear myself. It's good. It's a good beginning. So welcome to everyone. So we will mainly speak in English around the table, also in French. And if you don't understand good enough the language that is spoken, you can also read like it's kind of online translation, a mix of AI and Anna Francesca. Yeah, she is better than AI, so that's great. So we have the real one doing it. We are experimenting different ways of translating today. I hope that's the best. So thanks a lot for doing that. So welcome everyone for this roundtable that is called Rethinking Economics for Social and Solidarity Economy, a Green Big Deal. So thanks a lot for being here with us. So as you might know, as a little introduction, 1 year ago, in April 2023, there was a resolution in the General Assembly of the UN that was called Promoting Social and Solidarity Economy, I think in order for sustainable development. And this resolution, we will talk, of course, about it, is kind of a turning point because it asks every state members to think how to implement that resolution. And of course, related to that, university research centers, but as well as civil society, has to think of new concepts. How do we implement that in public policies? And tomorrow, at the same time, we will have a second roundtable that will be more focused on public policies. But for today is how university research centers, and civil society can think of new concepts regarding that resolution and this turning point. And at the same time, on the other hand, how do we think also of tools, numeric tools, economic tools, in order to make this resolution and SSE spread around our public authorities, around our economy? That's the idea around. So we have great researchers with us tonight. So thank you a lot for being here. And maybe in the room we have RIPESS members, because this roundtable is in the middle of the General Assembly of RIPESS. RIPESS is the international network for SSE, so for Social and Solidarity Economy, and they are in Geneva for 3 days in order to have this General Assembly. So in the room we have representatives of a lot of networks within Europe, Croatia, Greece, Spain, and I forgot. I don't have the time to say every countries. And we have also members of APRES, so the local network of SSE. And the idea also will have a time after that with a little drink, so that also members of RIPESS and members of APRES can also get to know each other and make links, or maybe going further to the discussion. So that was a bit for my little introduction. I think I will begin with you, Yixiang Yi. So you work for UNRISD. So UNRISD, for the ones that don't know, it's the United Nations Research Institute for Social Development. And of course, you're a great specialist of SSE. Like UNRISD developed an encyclopedia about SSE with a lot of concepts in it. And maybe my question to begin with is, how important is this resolution, and what do you think of its potential, already maybe going on or coming, of developing new concepts in terms of economics? So if you can say some words about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I feel very much honored to be here because RIPESS was and will be at the center of SSE development. And this resolution itself was prepared by many, but many of members in the preparation team for this resolution were from RIPESS. So in a way, RIPESS is the kind of real player behind this scene of adoption of resolution last year. So I kind of really appreciate your support and help and contribution to this adoption of resolution, first of all. And I think in the process of this resolution adoption, one of the most important concerns we had, all those people involved in this process had, was to talk to non-converted. So we wanted to talk about SSE to those who do not know much about SSE. Without it, it's quite difficult to adopt resolution in General Assembly because, a General Assembly should understand what SSE is first to adopt that resolution. So if you look at the definition in the resolution, you will find it is very broad. And you can find it maybe from the perspective of academics, it is not that social, scientific, or scientific logic or whatever, but it has political logic and political strategy to encompass all those different elements, all those different activities related to SSE. So you have to understand what is the logic behind that definition first when you look at or interpret the idea about SSE in the context of resolution. And in that sense, resolution is very important because it is the entry point to the wider community in which you have to spread the idea about SSE. And I think this logic or spirit or idea should be shared by all those different groups working on SSE, because everybody knows that we have different ideas of or different definitions of SSE. In Latin America, Asia, Europe, and RIPESS, Syriac, all those different groups have different ideas and definitions. But as long as we are on the same page, like we are going to change the world through SSE, we have to understand that political logic and political strategy. I think that is the importance of resolution, which has very broad definition of SSE. So maybe, academics in universities or research institutes have different ideas, different definitions, but this idea or political logic or political strategy behind these diverse definitions can be an important element we have to share in common.
Thank you. We'll come back to that later. Maybe to continue with the presentation round. Aileen, so you asked me not to say your last name, so I will stick to Aileen. So thank you, Aileen. Okay, I should. So Aileen, sorry. So you're professor of economics. You come from Turkey, and you're also the founder of Social Economy blog. So maybe just before I give you my question, I think we can really define also SSE in contradiction to neoliberalistic or classical economy, in a sense that SSE, as well for economical actors, one with another, businesses that work together, as well as employees or colleagues within a cooperative, for instance, or within a business, they work through the concept of cooperation. And in the other side, classical economy is based on the concept of competition, because of course you want to be the first one to sell the more or to earn the more money to then feed the capital owners. So we have a very, how to say, definition that is very antagonistic. And I'm coming to my question: how do you think that resolution and the concepts that it can bring, such as SSC, are a critique and can go beyond the mainstream economy, that is the so-called neoclassic economy, from your perspective?
Thank you.
No, I think it's
Green light. So, yeah. I think there is resolution is a real answer to mainstream economics, because it puts the people and it puts the needs of the people. So the market economy, you know, prioritize profit, maximizing profit, and if we look the dominant market economy, we should be aware of our economy, and the economics as a discipline shapes our behavior. It makes us more competitive, more selfish, and it less cooperative. So and I believe that economics is based on narrow consumption of man, markets, social relations, and also well-being. For example, the main measure of well-being is GDP, and GDP obsession. We should get rid of this, and we should develop some alternative measures to be able to measure well-being. And what else? And also economics conceptual framework ignores society and biosphere. So our title, Rethinking Economics something, but rethinking is not enough. We should rebuild economics, and we should build an economy for the people. Right now, nowadays, we as people work for the economy, and economy does not serve us. We serve the economy. So we need a new economy. We should bring natural scientists, social scientists, and economists on the same table. And what else? And we need a new narrative. We need a new narrative focused on the economy's impact on society and also on the planet.
Thank you. And as I haven't said in the beginning, that you manage a blog in the whole Turkey to spread also these concepts and this way of research papers and work on SSC. So it's a way, I think, for you also to spread this new the way to reshape the economics that you work on.
Yes, we should raise our voices. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I continue with Jean-Luc Falcon. So I think you are the first people I know that is working on something that I have to read through, that is computational diplomacy. So what is a computational diplomacy? And maybe further that question, which tools, because we arrived to the tool of the concept, which tools do you think are key to develop and implement in order to go with that resolution on the fact that public policies will need tools to be implemented? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, just to answer your first question, so computational diplomacy, it's a new approach that we are starting with researchers from the University of Geneva and the Polytechnical School in Zurich, and we are trying to use computational methods in order to understand multilateralism. In Geneva, mostly what we do is that we study texts, all the texts that are produced by the international organization, and we try to find the links, the command citation, the parts, and we try to understand how the norm diffuse. So we use approaches that are not possible without computers because there are too many texts that are too much similar, and for a human being, it's possible, but it's too boring. No researcher is able to
digest
all that test all day long and be able to study it in a wide sense. So either you have something very focused and you can do it, or you do something very superficial. So that's what we do. But it's not the object, I think, what I would like to exchange today. Mostly here, and I was invited to talk about tools and about how we could use the digital tools, the software, computers, network, in order to do other things. That's what we see today. And as a computer scientist, I'm a bit astonished about what the digital world could have been and what it is today. And there's a world between both. And mostly what I'm surprised is why computers are not much tools that can extend the reach of people, the agency of people, and not just machine to constrain them in a kind of elite way. And yeah, we could discuss about many different approaches and tools, but I think that's most people here, they heard about free software, about open source. That's something that is interesting. But what you have, I think, to focus first is to have free and open protocols and formats, and way to have interconnect different systems, whatever they are. And that's also something that we could discuss this evening.
Yeah, so we'll go more into details afterwards, maybe. Yeah, thank you. And then we go to Christian Hansperger, which is like a professor of economics in Lausanne. So thank you for coming in Geneva. No, I want to.
It's an adventure.
It's an adventure always. It's always an adventure.
I was very scared when I got out of the train.
Regarding to Turkey, it's like a
yes,
crazy
yes,
adventure. No, we're always kidding between Lausanne and Geneva. I want to. I want to maybe to make you react on the tools, and especially like tools that we both work on, but especially like local currency and also thematic currency, or wider maybe monetary tools. How do you think these tools are relevant or key, or how can they be used in order to implement maybe tomorrow in Switzerland and in other countries this UN resolution?
Okay.
To begin with.
Just, yeah, okay, a few words about that. Well, okay, so first I wanted to just briefly go back to what Eileen said about rebuilding economics. I fully agree. Actually, I'm not a specialist of social economy. In fact, it's been a topic that I've been, traveling along with for 30 years with many colleagues in Louvain, in Belgium, and now here in Switzerland. I've been more preoccupied with, as Antonin said, with kind of thinking about the framework conditions for a gradual change of the economy. So first of all, I would like to say I agree with what you said about rethinking and then rebuilding economics. However, I think what we are, as academics and as economists, perhaps not very good at yet, is understanding why it hasn't worked yet. I mean, to be honest, at HEC Lausanne, in any business school or even economics department that I know. I mean, the one that has the most made the most progress that I know of is Liège, for example, in Belgium. But even they, I mean, I know Sibylle Mertens very well. Even Sibylle and the Liège social economy group say they are embattled and small and constantly criticized and even mocked, and and so on. So it's not like we can just kind of decree to change economics. I mean, I know you know that, but what I'm saying is that would be an interesting topic of research in itself, understanding the existing obstacles to the greater spread of interest of students in SSE. Why has it remained a minority, and why is it just not gaining the ground it should be? So that leads me to my second remark, which is I think I've always been worried about the social economy. As in French we say une voiture balai, which is like the car that, at the Tour de France at the end, there's a truck that drives and picks up the riders who have fallen, who are too tired, and we don't want the social economy to be just that, right? And so it means we have to really understand how to make it more mainstream, really, without compromising its goals. And as much as I agree about the idea that we are replacing, in SSE we replace, as Antonin said, competition by cooperation, I'm not entirely sure that in reality this is so much the case. I mean, in capitalism, in market capitalism, what you have is cooperation within organizations in order to compete amongst organizations. In SSC, ideally, we would like to have like collaboration within organizations in order to collaborate across organizations, within networks. But the problem with that is I see that this isn't always true within organizations. I think SSE and cooperatives and associations have a very high level of burnout, underpayment, self-exploitation, exhaustion, competition and rivalry. I mean, it's not like humans change immediately when they work in that's one thing. And the second thing, which leads me then, don't worry, I'm getting to my point. The second thing is that cooperation across organizations is not so easy because of the funding problem. Okay, and we know that. The funding problem, I mean, you guys, you guys know that, right? The funding problem is such that, in fact, SSE businesses usually compete for basically public and philanthropic funds. They compete. And sometimes they compete fiercely, which is too bad because that's not the idea. So that leads me to my question and leads into the topic that Antonin was talking about. Money creation, the creation of the means of payment which circulates amongst us, is to me one of the crucial tools by which we can relax this competition drive between organizations. I mean, to solve what's happening within SSE organizations, that requires, various things that I'm not so competent on. But to relax and even eliminate possibly at least the harmful competition, the scarcity reasoning, the feeling of being constantly on edge because you never have enough funding. You can never hire someone more than 6 months because you don't know if you'll have the funds, and so on. So basically structuralizing high-level funding that is not coming from market actors which contradict the logic that we're working in. That to me is the main objective of the whole discussion on money. I just wanted to bring that up so that we know why we're talking about the money aspect. And then we can go into details later on.
No, it's good. It's good. Thank you for bringing local currency in that. I will come back to you afterwards. Maybe to finish with this roundtable with Elodie Ross. So you're a researcher in Université de Paris 8, and you're also working for UCOP. So maybe you could begin also to tell us what is UCOP regarding to housing and not housing, but with cooperatives for students. And maybe my question would be, in your perspective and in your experience, which are the concepts that are already that are today taught in the university to students, to PhD, to future researchers that are leading to like a more SSE world, and which are the concepts and the economics that is taught that is still keeping us in the competitive and neoclassical world. And how do you see that coming, also with regard with that resolution?
Thank you. So I have to speak in French because I don't have the word to say what I want to say in English. So I speak in French. Donc voilà. Donc moi je suis du coup chercheuse en sciences humaines, en sociologie et en sciences politiques à l'Université Paris 8. J'ai beaucoup travaillé sur le projet politique de l'économie alternative et solidaire en France. Et là, à Paris 8, je fais des recherches, mais pas dans un laboratoire, dans un service opérationnel transversal qui est le service d'insertion professionnelle, le Career Center de l'université. Et je vous dis ça parce que c'est un peu en lien avec notamment la question des concepts. Donc, dans les universités françaises, il y a un développement depuis les années 1990 des masters, des formations à l'économie sociale et solidaire. Et on a fait une enquête dans le cadre de rédaction d'un article. Et la caractéristique de ces formations, c'est elles sont beaucoup co-conçues avec les acteurs. Donc elles font une large part aux acteurs, au territoire, qui interviennent aussi dans les... Voilà, donc je pense que c'est une des voies pour trouver d'autres concepts, d'autres savoirs, d'autres épistémologies. Et elle s'appuie aussi beaucoup sur des mises en pratique au service justement de ces territoires et de ces acteurs, des habitants, etc. Et ça, c'est une autre caractéristique. Et donc, dans ce cadre-là, il y a des initiatives de coopératives d'étudiants. Donc, on a créé un réseau. Il y a 6 universités en France qui ont ce type de dispositif qui permettent aux étudiants d'expérimenter qu'est-ce que ça veut dire en fait, une autre modalité de travail, un autre modèle économique, une autre gouvernance concrètement, quels sont les effets sur les activités économiques qu'ils mènent, justement quelles sont les marges, comment on joue avec ça en fonction de... Voilà. Et puis comment on partage les bénéfices, qu'est-ce qu'on valorise, quel travail on valorise, qu'est-ce qu'il y a de la valeur dans ce qu'on produit ou pas. Est-ce que c'est de la production de livrables? Est-ce que c'est de la cogitation? Est-ce que c'est du bien collectif, etc. Donc ça, c'est des choses qui réfléchissent. Donc la plupart de ces coopératives d'étudiants sont dans des masters et comme espace d'application. Et à l'Université Paris 8, c'est dans le service commun. Donc ça s'adresse à tous les étudiants de toutes les formations, toute année de formation, du début jusqu'au doctorat. Et de tout pays aussi, puisque l'Université Paris 8 est l'université française où il y a le plus d'étudiants étrangers. Et les étudiants qui viennent dans la coopérative d'étudiants sont à 60% étrangers, voire là, cette année, il y a 13 étudiants, il y a 12 nationalités.
And to be sure, we got it. It's like cooperative for students, for researchers that can propose their skills for external clients, like public authorities or for maybe organizations. Is that correct?
Oui. Ils s'organisent. En fait, on leur donne une entreprise coopérative, un numéro de SIRET, des assurances professionnelles, et ils doivent tous les 15 réfléchir à qu'est-ce qu'ils peuvent faire comme activité à partir de ce qu'ils savent faire, ce qu'ils connaissent, ce qu'ils ont envie de faire, et des besoins du territoire. Et donc, ils créent des activités économiques qui facturent à différents clients, des associations, des collectivités territoriales, etc. Et ils réfléchissent de comment après ils répartissent l'argent, même s'ils ne gagnent pas grand-chose. Mais par contre, par rapport au concept et au savoir, finalement, et c'est aussi le cas dans les masters, et je pense que c'est une voie pour nous, en tout cas en termes de recherche. En fait, il y a tous les savoirs en fait, des gens qui pratiquent. Et en fait, en changeant un peu nos épistémologies, ça va nous ouvrir sur d'autres concepts aussi. Et là, je donne juste un petit témoignage par rapport à ça d'une étudiante il y a 15 jours, en fait, qui expliquait qu'est-ce qu'ils avaient appris dans la coopérative. Et en fait, elle disait, bon, nous, on est venus, on pensait qu'on allait créer une entreprise, faire une marque de boisson et gagner de l'argent. Et on était venus pour faire du profit. Et en fait, on a découvert que l'économie, elle pouvait être altruiste. Voilà, c'est une grande découverte pour eux. Et qu'en fait, on pouvait avoir d'autres objectifs dans une activité économique que de créer du profit. On pouvait, en fait, l'économie pouvait aussi créer de la valeur sociale. Et ça, c'est ce qu'on a appris pendant la coopérative. Et donc, voilà, je pense que penser, les concepts, les savoirs, etc., rendre visibles tous ces savoirs des acteurs, ça aide aussi à forger des concepts qui ont la force, quand les étudiants les rencontrent, ben ça, c'est eux qui le disent. Et ça, c'est pas des étudiants en économie sociale et solidaire. Ils viennent de art de la scène, information, communication, mathématiques, sciences politiques. Enfin, je cherche, mais langues étrangères. Enfin, voilà, c'est vraiment très large en fait d'où ils viennent et de tout pays, de tout d'Asie, d'Afrique, d'Amérique latine, d'Europe. Voilà.
Okay, merci. Maybe to go back to Il Xiong, if we go back to that UN resolution, maybe to go a bit more into not the details, but into the materials of it. Why is it social and solidarity economy? Why is it not, I don't know, social entrepreneurship or social economy? Maybe what are the key differences? Maybe there was also during the discussions around this resolution. What do you think? How do you think that will lead to concrete criteria? Because of course we talk about social and solidarity economy. We have different. You told us there's different definition of it. What's the process? What's the key issues or maybe risks around that very tricky question of criteria and what is social and solidarity economy? In RIPESS, we know quite well, we have the same values. Sometimes the criteria can change. For instance, in Geneva, we have the idea of limited lucrativity, not only non-lucrativity. What do you think of that? I think interesting to go more into the details, I guess.
Okay. Before I answer to your question, I mean, maybe I can talk about the economy itself. Mm-hmm. In history, you haven't got, in any time, you haven't got pure economy composed of just one system. You know, all the economies in history, whether it is called feudalism, whether it is called capitalist economy, you have different economies or different economic relations and activities. So you talked about altruistic economy. I mean, that was in the feudalism, in the capitalist economy, in ancient times as well. Somehow, some elements related to capitalist economy could exist in ancient times, in feudalistic economy, of course, in the capitalist economy. So what I meant by this is we are living in plural economies. That gives us some hope to change economy because we have embryos of different economies. So when we talk about social and solidarity economy, I mean, you talked about Tour de France. I think we haven't started Tour de France yet in terms of social and solidarity economy. You know, this resolution is the declaration, something like, okay, we're going to start Tour de France with different economies. So we have, you know, great journey ahead called Tour de France. So in order to complete this race, we have to have some strategies to run, to operate this Tour de France in a way, together with other forms of economies, other players. Social entrepreneurship or social economy, or some economies claiming they are social and solidarity economy. There are so many different types. I think we have to have two layers of strategy. One thing is, okay, you have to have very strong core, keeping key elements of social and solidarity economy, such as solidarity, democratic self-control, redistribution, attention to vulnerable people, those kind of things, which are listed in the resolution. We listed up all those important elements of social and solidarity economy. You have to keep them. Second layer of strategy is about how to engage with different players, different economic systems, different economic relations and activities, such as social entrepreneurships or social, social business with social purposes, social enterprises with much more kind of a capitalistic orientation. You have different kinds, and sometimes you will come across some economic relations and activities which can be defined as social and solidarity economy under the certain circumstance, but cannot be defined as a social and solidarity economy under certain circumstance. I think if you want to change the world with social and solidarity economy, you can come up with strategy. Even, you can come up with new definition about social and solidarity economy to navigate this complexity of economic systems or social and solidarity, economic relations and activities. So what I meant is the definition is not purely scientific. It's not purely neutral. It's a political. So you have to come up with strategy sometimes beforehand, before the definition. So if you stick to purely scientific definition of social and solidarity economy, somehow you contribute to making social and solidarity economy Galapagos. And in the future, maybe you will see those trucks to pick up social and solidarity leftovers, or the defeats, and to pick up them to get on board of those trucks in Tour de France. So important thing is social and solidarity economy, by definition, is political concept. So you have to think about the strategy to develop your own scientific concept and develop your political strategy around this scientific concept.
Yeah, thank you. So I understand also the definition has to come within the strategy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. If I come to Eileen, if I got it right this time, sorry. So maybe talking from your perspective from Turkey, maybe if you want to react on what you heard, but also maybe what you can share of what's going on researchers in SSC in Turkey. What are the main concerns, the main thing you want maybe to share with us?
Okay, but before that, I would like to highlight something. You mentioned the plurality of economies. So it also in economics there is plural economic schools. For example, feminist economics and ecological economics, also donut economics. We have several economic schools, and they all contribute to the alternative economies. So, as a researcher, I would like to contribute that area because it is so important, not only on theoretical level, but also go to the grassroots and learn from them how they build social bonds, how they become a community, what are their obstacles, what are the barriers. We should understand from the grassroots level. As a researcher, I feel like that. And coming to Turkey, it's all crazy, it's complex. So, but there's a rising attention towards social and solidarity economy because we are living we are going through big crisis. So people are looking for solutions and cooperatives and other types of solidarity initiatives attracts people because it gives them hope, Josette. It gives them hope and it gives them, all right, we can do it. Also, they look others and saw some good examples, some successful examples, and they try to build their own solidarity initiatives. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Regarding Jean-Luc Falcon, so coming back to digital world, could you maybe give us some thought of what you're working on? I think regarding some specific aspect of the digitalization of the tools to develop SSE. I mean, for instance, I think of interoperability. So how is it possible that nowadays we have so many actors working that cannot easily work together because they have different tools that cannot operate together? So I think that one thing you could maybe develop. And I think you talked also about internet neutrality, for instance. You could maybe another thing you could develop. And finally, but then you can choose and pick up cherry picking between that. How do we use public markets also as a tool regarding digitalization? And yeah, please.
Okay. So, so I will start by the last one. Then I will avoid being too long. But in the university where I work, I was involved in buying some very large machines, computation machine, high performance computing cluster, and I was involved in all the procedure. And I discover a bit this world that I didn't know is how government, they buy large services and they buy large machine. And what I notice is that at the end, it's very difficult not to buy something from one of the largest corporation that is selling material. There are many alternatives, but for example, all the universities, they have emails from Microsoft in Switzerland. Why? All the government, they buy their services, they buy the database from Oracle. Why? And from a point of view, of purely technical point of view, they are not very good services. And the reason is that all the rules about the markets, they will at the end favor the company with the lowest price. And so a company that is able to tick all the boxes of the specification that you send them, but is cheaper than the other, they will get chosen. But once it's chosen, the problem is that it's more and more difficult to get out of it. For example, the email protocol was invented in the 80s. It's something very old. People, they think that is newer than that, but it's quite old. And most small email provider, let's say, they will stick to that protocol. And what it does mean is that you can choose any email software that you want, and you can use it on any computer that you want. But the larger one, like Microsoft and more Google, they are avoiding to use the standard protocol, pretending that they add some feature, which it's incorrect, because we can show that it's not true. And what it does mean is that if you want to use their service, you have either to use their website or to use their software, meaning that you are exposed to all their machinery to try to, for example, to access to your content and to turn you in a target for advertisement, for example. So it's more and more difficult to get out. And so actually what we suffer from is the fact that from one end the market will give an advantage to the cheaper. Since they are big, they can lower the price, they can practice some kind of dumping, but then they use strategies in order to avoid people to escape. And how to escape from that, how to ensure that people, they really can escape, is to use, for example, to enforce what I'm always trying to promote, is to use free protocols and free formats to be sure that whatever the system you use, you know that you will be able to interconnect it with another one. It means that you can use all your infrastructure in your home or in a company, in a business association, and be able to replace some parts with the one that you want without causing harm. And that can happen only if we have a very strict control, not necessarily on the software itself, but on the protocol and the formats that we use. For example, I want to be able to take a picture with any machine, that the camera machine that I want, and then process the picture with another equipment without having to stick to the one that I have. I want to be able to save my data locally if I want, or on iCloud if I don't want. And usually people, they very avoid this discussion because they stick on the software itself, instead of talking about how the different software and how the network is built, and how can we ensure that we have a compatibility that is durable in time.
Thank you. Maybe you can also react later on the rest. Maybe with you, Christian. So you talked a bit about why it's so interesting to get interest into monetary creation, and maybe about the tools. I think you could maybe,
yes,
of course, talk about maybe local currency, but also the study we worked on together this year about called Model. Not into details, but more how the idea was, how can a state or public authority use a local currency in order to develop a specific public policy. For instance, it could be right for food, it could be access to SSC goods and services, specific ones. It could be access to self-managed energy, for instance. So how do you link these kind of tools with the public policies in order to implement this, for instance, this resolution on SSC?
Right. So I want to get to that by starting with what Jean-Luc was saying, because it's fascinating. I think what Jean-Luc pointed to, I mean, we're having good meta discussions. I don't know if you guys appreciate that, but it's better than going into the umpteenth thing about how social economy is so important. I think we know that. But to me, one of the most crucial, like, structural conditions for to be able to hope that something like the resolution kind of makes a foray, makes a difference, is at a very different level, is to finally break the spell of, let's say, the capitalist market economy logic that inhabits the brains of our public decision makers. I think it's absolutely appalling I mean, and we had, I mean, I won't reveal any, you know, confidential stuff, but Antonin and I went to a public, I mean, it was the canton of Geneva, that we can say, but we're not going to go into more detail. For a meeting about this model that we had about the local currency, and the main objection to the model, one of the main ones, came from one of the participants who was a public servant, who said, well, your thing is interesting, but I really think to be politically acceptable, you would have to show that your little solidarity economy mechanism that wants to give a little bit of the right of basic food to poor people in Geneva doesn't create unfair competition towards Coop and Migros. Right? Okay, so that's the level at which we're working here, is that most public decision makers are so beholden to the idea that, you know, the mainstream actors are the legitimate ones. Whereas I think what the first thing we would need to do is to completely turn it around and actually start showing. Start showing that the unfair competition goes exactly in the other direction. I mean, I know you know that because when you work on in the field of social economy, you know that. I mean, the system is so skewed, and one of the reasons why it is that there's this deep illusion that the reason why this guy was obsessed with Migros and Coop, for heaven's sake, is that most people think that the ones who create the money that we're receiving as salaries and that's circulating are businesses. Most citizens think that it's businesses that create wealth. They don't. I mean, they create something with which to exchange the money that gets put into circulation. And I'm not saying they don't add value or something, you know, they do sometimes. You know. But it's all done on the basis of a kind of basic public procurement, which is to say the state, Switzerland, or you know, gives validity to the Swiss franc as an official currency. And then the banks make loans in this currency to businesses that start doing business, paying wages and so on and so forth. So the basic guarantor of the value of money is the government in Switzerland. It's not the businesses, and it's not the banks. They just operate on a kind of profit-making mechanism. So the reason why I'm saying that is that if once we see that money is first injected in the economy by some public symbolic actor who says this is going to be the money that you're going to use, all of you, then we see that a lot more can be done than what gets done in the current system, and that's why I think so. There's two areas in which I think money creation can really help boost the resolution. First, not complementary currencies yet, but I
still
need
waiting,
a little bit
still
of time.
waiting.
Yeah, it's, some suspense, you know. Have you guys heard of modern money theory, MMT? You should. There's good readers now for lay people. Definitely look into it. It's the idea that money is basically created through government spending and could be created through government spending instead of through bank credit. Which means essentially governments could put into circulation much more money than they do now by simply spending it into circulation. The Swiss government doesn't like this idea because it's inflationary, blah blah. But we go into the details. But it means basically that public procurement could be used much more massively to boost social solidarity economy. I know you know that, but and there the obstacle is what I just said before, is that the public servants, most of them, don't see how that would actually re-establish the competition, make it more fair than it is now, because large private sector businesses don't need procurement, but they want to get their hands even on that. Okay, but so we need a public procurement that is strongly, very strongly skewed towards social solidarity economy, and the way we would do that is basically to have, in Switzerland, there would be an office of public procurement in Bern that would determine how much money the Swiss federal government would put into circulation through government debt, which is not debt, it's just an injection of money. I mean, there's no reason to call it debt, but and then there would be mechanisms by which that money could percolate down to the cantons and the cities and so on. I mean, it's not elementarily simple, but it's certainly doable. It's a form of democratic planning, which we could certainly do. That's one way. So that's with central money creation. And the other way in which money creation aspects are important for social solidarity economy, SSE, is, make it shorter, I'm going to win 2 minutes by just saying SSE, is local complementary currencies, obviously, but not obviously, but only if they too are like strongly linked organically in their very logic to the values and mechanisms and priorities of SSE. And there, maybe we can give more details later, but Mon Élément and myself, with a researcher from Lausanne, we did a research project for the canton. So they had actually asked us to do it, but it's not the same people that ended up evaluating it. But and so the idea was to say, well, the Association Mon Élément could create a certain amount of léments put into circulation according to the charter of the Mon Élément, which is very SSE oriented, and so it would like channel money towards a certain sector or a set of sectors. It would have all the advantages of complementary currencies, which is to strengthen the local economy, to develop a social, an SSE sector that cannot be easily developed through the market economy, competitive logic, and so on and so forth. And the way we would boost the volume of léments that get injected into the Geneva economy and are allowed to circulate, and the way we would secure the circulation would be to guarantee that amount of léments, let's say, I don't know, 2 million léments, 1 million, whatever. By the Geneva state announcing, a bit like a deposit insurance, okay, announcing that if somebody wants to exchange their léments back to Swiss francs for any reason, no questions asked, the government will pay, will feed into a fund in Swiss francs, will commit to a certain amount of Swiss francs with which it would reconvert the léments into Swiss francs, so that if you don't want to use the léments, you don't have to. It's not like a dictatorship. And so that was the simple idea by which we thought the government wouldn't even have to pay out the money into a fund outright. It would just have to commit by announcement that it would, if asked, it would go up to a certain level of léments reimbursement. That way, that currency, which is not at all the same as a Swiss franc, because it's much more limited in a good way to the local economy and so on, would be secured in its circulation. People would feel that they could get rid of it if they wanted to, which actually makes it that they don't want to get rid of it as fast. It's an insurance mechanism. And so we just asked the canton to say yes to this one measure, to have a projet de loi or something by which that fund would be created by the government and for a period of 5 years experimentally and to see how it works.
Yeah, great. And maybe we're still waiting for the answer. And
Still waiting for the answer.
And no, right. And maybe just to jump on the panel, just to add that, I think it's interesting regarding like the implementation of public policies, because if you want to implement, for instance, right for food, but it could be another implementation to develop SSE, you can inject Swiss franc. And then you, as a state, you pay in Swiss franc, and then you will just implement, or you will sustain specific I don't know, habits or specific consumptions models, but then you don't know where it goes. Then it cuts you for every time you make an incentive for consumption. If you do it with a complementary currency, thematic or local, for instance, for Right for Food, it's a thematic currency because it's only units that give you access to specific shops where you can get local food, for instance. Then it doesn't cost you as a state if you work the state with a complementary currency association. It costs you only if businesses within the network cannot spend it anymore. But it occurs. But only in that sense, you need this mechanism found as that you presented. And what is very interesting is that that's the first thing. It costs less to the state to implement this public policy. But in the same time, what is interesting is that the money that will be injected will locally develop supply chains. And with that supply chains, it means businesses. And with businesses, it means employees. And I think that's 2 points that I just wanted to add regarding to what's going on here in Geneva about the Right for Food we talked about it this afternoon, that was accepted 1 year ago to be implemented within the Geneva Constitution, and that will be implemented through a law of implementation this autumn. We're also waiting for the canton to have this law of implementation. So I think there is a little, but I think I just, then we have time for
I just wanted to add that this is where, with the Right for Food is where that little remark came that I talked about earlier. So one of the guys at the table, public servant, said, well, but if Migros and Co-op are not also drawn into the system of right to food, then it's not politically acceptable. And we said, well, I said, Antonin is very diplomatic, but I frowned. I said, you know, what the fuck? You know, it's like, I mean, no. What if we want to, you know, ensure that the food given is not just sold by a big store, but has values behind it, social economy values, and so on.
And this is the last time I invited Christian to a meeting with the state.
Yes, probably that was the last time. Yes.
I'm kidding. So to finish with Elodie Ross, maybe you want to add something. Yeah, and then we open to the room, open mic. So maybe to finish with, you want maybe to react on what you heard. Yeah, floor is yours.
Merci. Plusieurs choses. En France, il y a, au Pays Basque, il y a l'OJCO et le département paye les salariés, les fonctionnaires en OJCO. Donc c'est une manière aussi de...
Il faudrait que les impôts en OJCO.
Ça, je ne sais pas. Mais en tout cas, ils les payent. Mais en tout cas, voilà, il y a des manières aussi de s'intégrer comme ça. Et ensuite, sur la question plutôt de la question des modèles économiques, en fait. Une autre expérience des étudiants, ils devaient imaginer des projets et à partir de besoins qu'ils ont rencontrés. Et ils voulaient avoir du tutorat pour les premières années, parce qu'ils arrivent à l'université, ils ne comprennent rien. Au lycée, ils sont très encadrés, ils sont lâchés dans la nature. En plus, l'université Paris 8 n'est pas la plus organisée des universités. Voilà. On est un centre expérimental, on fait beaucoup d'autogestion, on est la fac de Deleuze, de Guattari, de Foucault, c'est Vincennes. Du coup, voilà, bon, pour quelques petits étudiants, c'est pas toujours facile. Voilà. Et en fait, ils ont réfléchi à mettre en œuvre ça. Ils ont interviewé des étudiants qui sont actuellement tuteurs, avec ce qu'on appelle les emplois étudiants, donc qui sont payés en vacation, 10 € de l'heure, voilà. S'ils sont malades, ils ne sont pas payés, etc. Et donc, en fait, ils ont conclu que eux, leur association, en fait, ils le feraient sans argent, parce qu'ils ne voulaient pas payer des étudiants pour rendre ce service, parce que c'est quelque chose dont ils avaient besoin, mais qui ne voulaient pas que leurs besoins soient source en fait, de précarité et d'exploitation de d'autres étudiants, que du coup, ils le feraient sur le bénévolat, mais que par contre, ils négocieraient avec leur formation, leur licence. C'est une licence AES, donc une licence d'économie, de pouvoir valoriser l'engagement des étudiants qui le font, parce qu'en fait, ça leur paraissait beaucoup plus intéressant de faire ça, du coup, de créer des espaces où tout le monde pouvait apprendre, plutôt que de créer finalement de la précarité, etc. Et voilà. Donc c'était juste pour dire que, voilà, encore une fois, en fait, par la pratique, par l'expérimentation, etc., les étudiants, il y a plein de choses qu'ils ne connaissent pas, ça ne leur parle pas, ils sont très loin de ces questions-là, mais quand ils le pratiquent, ils sont obligés de se poser des questions, et quand ils questionnent, ben là, ils voient bien que ça ne marche pas, et que ce qu'on leur a vendu comme un modèle économique rationnel est souvent complètement irrationnel. Voilà. Donc, c'était un peu ma réaction à tout ça.
Thank you. So now it's time also for you to share. I haven't forget you. I think I will take three remarks, question. Please try to keep it as much as possible in a nutshell. So I take three, and then you can react on that.
I don't. Oops. Yes, sorry.
She's been, energy has been rising.
Yes, absolutely. I actually have two questions. I hope that's no problem. Okay, the first one is for Christian, but I also welcome remarks from the rest of the panel, which was excellent, by the way. You were saying that we need to break the spell of capitalism in the minds of decision makers. I wonder if in that case, if it wouldn't be necessary for SSC scholars to develop to operationalize the concept of efficiency based on use value instead of exchange value. To develop concepts of efficiency based on use value. It's because I study SSC as well, and one of the things that I notice is that so far, yes, it's political, no doubt about that. It's unapologetically and shamelessly political. But in order to be more palatable by the so-called mainstream, wouldn't it be better to base it on more apparently objective measures, such as efficiency, but to reframe it? We have to remember that the neoliberal logic and neoclassical logic and the logic of neoclassical economics is like a culmination of Enlightenment thinking, an attempt to liberate economics and politics from ideology and from religion, and we all see the results. But perhaps we need to appeal to that logic and turn it upside down. And second, you were saying that it's very difficult to make SSC attractive to students and young people. One thing that I notice is that a lot of young people are very attracted to integral models and to metamodernism. For example, the Eco-Village Design Education Framework, the training frameworks and the epistemological frameworks developed and promoted by the Transition Network, which are based on integral and metamodern epistemologies. And one thing that I noticed is that I remember that our friend, our dear Ruby van der Wecken once said that a solidarity economy is actually a method or a strategy to transition towards a commons-based economy. And I know that many people here present tonight, okay, they're part of RIPESS, but they're also active in the Transition Network, and a lot of them also have a foot in the permaculture movement or even the Eco-Village movement. Deep down, all these movements and all these networks, they're doing solidarity economy. They use and they're using what we call solidarity economy as a strategy to transition towards a commons-based economy. So perhaps it's time for us to be humble as well, and to see ourselves as part of something bigger, as kind of the operational managers of a transition towards like regenerative sustainability or something. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Maybe
no.
you can keep
we,
it.
we need
Okay.
to answer. I mean,
Yeah,
we
of course
can't,
you would,
collect,
but I wanted to
collect
take
so many questions we won't remember.
Please proceed.
Very quickly, so you're right. We should have a notion of use value efficiency. Actually, even if that sounds weird, neoclassical economics is entirely about use value, which is strange, but it is. What's perverted is that it gets interpreted since the neoliberal backlash of the 70s and Friedman and so on, and in various other ways, as the idea that you can only maximize your preferences subject to a budget constraints, but that budget constraint suddenly becomes linked to wage income and wealth. Okay, but in neoclassical economics as such, it's about use value. However, you're right. We should have a convincing argument to show decision makers that capitalism, market capitalism, is highly inefficient in terms of use value distribution. But the reason why that is the case is that, and again, neoclassical economics, I mean, the Valras-Pareto framework agrees with that, actually. I just want to say that because you know, we get into ruts about what economics is. No. Wait, I'll yeah. But the reason why the capitalist market economy is inefficient in the distribution of use values is that we've become so used to saying that the only way to access use values is through monetary income. So the problem, and that's what's so stuck in all our heads, not just the public decision makers, all of us. And I'm sorry to say, even perforce, the students you talk about, the young people you talk about, we have in Lausanne, we have lots of students who are super committed to Eco-Village Network and movements and so on. But guess what? As soon as they leave the university, their question is, well, how am I going to get a job now? How am I going to live? I have to pay the damn health insurance in Switzerland, which is incredibly high. I have to pay rent. So I need a job. So actually, the main problem is if you identify the access of use values with the possession of a solvent demand, of an monetary wealth that lets you buy what's useful for you, you're screwed. So this is a very radical proposal that you're making, because I think, it's good that we're talking about this, because I think social and solidarity, SSE, needs to be unabashedly political in this sense too, that it says within SSE we cannot avoid questioning wage dependency. That almost sounds like Marxism. Okay, I know, but so. Huh? Well, you're okay. I'm not sure the UN General Assembly is okay with it, which is why we need to do all these convoluted texts, you know.
Thank you. I think the second remark was for you, Il-Xiang, about. Yeah.
I think we know SSE is good, okay, and we know we need policy to spread SSE activities and idea. What we do not know is how to convince policymakers to establish policies to promote SSE somehow. And I think your comment hit the button. I think we need different thinkings about how to convince or how to persuade policymakers to establish policies to promote or implement SSE. I think use value, exchange value, maybe we have to go to Marxist literatures again to get the root causes of use value and exchange value. But what we have to do now is to think about different options to persuade policymakers. I think your idea is one of them, and we have to pay attention to that. And we have to look at scientific logic, whether it will be convincing or not. I think that is important. And that openness will help us to spread more about more ideas and more activities of SSE.
Thank you. There is one question. Also you?
Yes, you talk about the decision made on the basis of the lowest price, but what about the construction of price? Because the lowest price is not the lowest price, but because we don't take into account the external effects with the low transport price, with oil very small price. So you have a disaster with a social model, with the democracy, with the health, with a lot of things, and the price is not the real price. That the price without the price for society, so for us, through our taxes. What about that? It's not only the question of money, of currency, and of course that's a way to think, but also how we build the price.
Well, you're right, but that means, again, massively moving away from the market economy as we know it now. And I'll say it again, the capitalist market economy, not to insist on a controversial term, but because the logic of capital right now is very short term. So it doesn't integrate any of these aspects. But we would have to use a different price and impose it in public procurement. Okay, but the problem is that it all goes back to efficiency and need satisfaction and so on. We're in a world right now mentally where ideologically almost everybody agrees that you don't really deserve to have your needs met if you can't afford to buy the stuff that's needed. Whether you're a government or an individual. And that idea, which is not self-evident, but it's very pervasive, and it means that, we try to get the lowest price. We say that if efficiency and need satisfaction is not the right way to measure, because we need to have efficiency in providing the consumers with what they want, which means what they're able to buy, and so on and so forth. And this all skews the competition systematically against SSE endeavors, because SSE is not working in that logic. It's true.
Judith?
Wait.
So very briefly about public procurement, also something that we may do is to make expensive not to respect some criteria. We may put criteria in some way that to respect them, it will be very expensive. For example, if we force companies such as Microsoft to be interoperable, for them, they could do it, but it will be very expensive. And so they could not afford to have the lowest price. And so one of the thing that we may do is to change the criteria, the charters, the regulation, in order to ensure that they respect some criteria, that they will do, technically they can do it, but for them it will be very expensive and they will not be able to lower the price as much as they do now.
So I've got a few different things I want to throw at you. My name is Judith Hitchman. I'm one of the coordinators of RIPESS Intercontinental, and I've spent the last 25 years building the bridge between food sovereignty and social and solidarity economy. So the first thing I'm going to come back at you on is the question of the right to food. We don't talk about the right to food, we talk about the right to healthy, nutritious food, which is an entirely different thing. Because yesterday, a report was published that says 2.7 million people in Europe, a great percentage of them die from eating excessive amounts of ultra-processed foods. Now that in itself is an argument against Migros and company and that kind of food. Industrial food is not agroecological, organic, peasant agriculture food, and the nutritional value is completely different. The second thing about that is industrial food banks need to be replaced by social and solidarity economy. Solutions of which there are plenty, and I won't go into that now. The third thing is to come back to what you were saying. It is possible, and the European Union does have conditionalities There is a clause in European Union public procurement legislation that allows you to build in conditionalities like being supplied in public procurement by groups of small-scale food producers and locally processed foods. So these things do exist. We need to learn to use them better. This is the thing, I think. Another aspect I wanted to come to very quickly is the SDGs, which at all levels of all of the institutions, both the European Union and the UN, everything is according to the SDGs. Now, the indicators are totally skewed by the capitalist system. One of the worst experiences of my whole life was in an expert working group on SDG 8, on decent work and growth. And I kept saying, I'm sorry, you cannot make something unsustainable more sustainable. If it isn't sustainable, it doesn't work. Social and solidarity economy provides a different economic mindset and answers. And I've never known people to be so nasty to me in all my life. It was one of the...
That's a good sign.
Maybe it is, and I mean, I spend my life working on policy within the United Nations for RIPESS, for urgency. And those are the things I think we need to work on. New indicators, a new way of perceiving and implementing the economy, including the right to healthy, nutritious food through social and solidarity economy approaches.
Merci. I propose you not to react directly, so I take two other questions, and then the one from you that want to react can do.
Thank you. My name is Ivan Pavlovic. I work with one foot in Mobile Housing SCE regarding housing cooperatives and with other in Cooperative for Ethical Financing from Croatia. And I would perhaps, we talked about today, we are around a couple of different illusions, and perhaps we need to tackle one more regarding how to make policy authorities change toward SSC. I think we need to tackle the illusion who actually the authority is. Is the one who is running for the office or the one who is funding the campaign for the office? Thank you.
Thank you. And then Josette, that is waiting for the mic.
Thank you. I'm wondering if I speak in French or in English. Okay, in English. So,
You can switch.
I can switch. Okay. So, je vais parler en français. C'est mieux. Je voudrais juste souligner plusieurs éléments qu'on n'a pas forcément abordés ici. Premièrement, les banques, elles sont nourries, elles sont soutenues par les États, mais elles sont nourries par notre argent. Et ça, on l'oublie toujours. Nos salaires, tout ce que nous gardons en réserve, etc., tourne dans les banques, et c'est ça qui fait la richesse, tout compte fait. Bon, donc c'est juste un point. Un autre point qui me paraît important, c'est que si on doit reprendre la question des valeurs, il faut quand même voir que toutes les valeurs sont cues par-dessus tête. En français, on dit ça. C'est-à-dire que les gens qui travaillent réellement et qui donnent un travail réellement utile sont ceux qui sont les moins payés. On vient de le voir avec l'économie, et notamment les femmes. Et il y a une anthropologue qui a dit, et je souhaite la citer, elle travaille d'ailleurs avec Vandana Shiva, elle a dit que les 3 piliers du capitalisme, c'est l'exploitation des hommes, l'esclavage, des femmes et de la terre. Or, si on ne retravaille pas ces questions-là, c'est-à-dire si on ne retravaille pas le fait que le capitalisme repose sur l'exploitation marxiste, hein, on peut revenir aux fondamentaux marxistes, mais surtout l'exploitation de la moitié de l'humanité que sont les femmes, qui ne sont jamais rémunérées pour la qualité du travail qu'elles fournissent à l'ensemble de l'humanité. C'est tout ça qu'il faut revoir. Ce n'est pas seulement à la marge quelques petites, mise au clair sur un certain nombre de choses capitalistes, justement, parce que ce que vous disiez, c'est qu'en effet, on n'arrive pas à sortir de l'esprit capitaliste. Mais ces choses-là qui sont les piliers, on ne les remet jamais en question. On parle toujours à la marge. Or, il faut remettre en question ces trois éléments. L'exploitation des individus, de la nature, ça on en parle, et des femmes.
Thank you. Thank you, Zet. Maybe I know it's hard for you, but last one, and then I will give you the mic for the conclusion round. I'm sorry, because otherwise it's too long. Bent, you raise your hand, no? Or no? Okay, so have someone that takes your turn.
Merci, Antonin. I would like to underline something. Okay, as a SSE entrepreneur, okay, I have a big view on the politics and the policymakers and how they are sold to the economy and the big firms and everything. That's one point. But on the day-to-day life, as an entrepreneur, my main concern is cooperation with the people I like to work with and the well-being of these people and how I can pay them. And so it's not a matter of strategy. It's a matter of tactics. And if you can see what I mean the big strategy to win the war and the day-to-day tactics. And I would like to hear you about that.
Thank you. So I propose you a last roundtable to conclude, maybe to react or to answer some of the last questions. So we can do it. Maybe we can do it the other way around to change a bit with you, Elodie, if it's all right.
Pour réagir juste à la dernière intervention, moi je suis assez d'accord que c'est complémentaire en fait. Il faut avoir des stratégies et s'appuyer dessus. Et après, au quotidien, en fait, créer nos espaces, bricoler, négocier. Et c'est comme ça qu'on avance aussi. Mais reconnaître aussi la force de ces bricolages, de ces créations, encore une fois, de ces savoirs, etc. Je pense que c'est vraiment très important de lier les deux parce qu'elles s'appuient, elles se nourrissent. Et à mon avis, il faut qu'elles avancent ensemble. Donc voilà. Après, voilà, je partage aussi les accords. Si on ne change pas les conditions des appels d'offres, les indicateurs, etc., de toute façon, en fait, le match est truqué, en fait. Donc, ce qu'on appelle le libre marché, la concurrence libre et non faussée, est juste un mensonge, en fait. C'est de la concurrence tout à fait faussée. Et que, voilà, si on ne s'attaque pas à ça... c'est hyper important, et notamment dans nos espaces de formation avec les étudiants pour leur montrer qu'il y a d'autres modalités de gestion, d'autres économies, d'autres indicateurs, d'autres manières de penser le prix, la valeur des choses. Et après, c'est aussi des gens qui vont peut-être être des décideurs locaux. Donc voilà, au moins, on aura ouvert un peu une porte, quoi. Voilà.
So yeah, I also agree very much with the complementarity of strategy and tactics. I think, however, that there's a kind of division of labor. I think I wouldn't be very good at doing daily tactics. I think I'm a bit better at thinking about strategy. So we you know, but I think the important thing is that the two levels, which are systemically very distinct, to keep communicating. And so initiatives like yours sound wonderful. I mean, it's really great what you guys are doing, because this kind of incubator for students who haven't determined yet if they're going to go towards political decision-making or entrepreneurship, but who are doing this on a practical level is really fantastic. What I just want to add, in terms of the skewed competition, which I think is turning out to be one of the themes of tonight, and rightly so, I think, is that two things. I think, I mean, it sounds a bit corny, but we should really get to an age of enlightenment where lobbies are not necessarily forbidden, but they are framed by a completely transparent, public visibility system where essentially meetings of any decision maker at any level whatsoever with an external actor, you know, economic, but also NGOs, all the actors that gravitate around decision makers can of course come and interact. However, it should be streamed, live streamed, and watchable by anyone at any time. Any meeting should be public, all of them. You know, because the idea is that, of course, actors, non-market actors, non-political actors can bring information, can bring demands, can bring additional stuff, which is fine, possibly. But it should all be available to be, there should be no like secrecy and stuff. So that's, I know it sounds a bit naive, but I think it's important. The second thing is, we don't notice so much that capitalist businesses, Migros, let's say, to go back to the food example, benefit from a structurally reproduced system of, among other things, education, domestic work, generation after generation, which is just being furnished by society, reproductive and productive aspects of work and labor and so on, going on all the time. Okay? And then they go and say, oh, well, we want to be the big guys. We want to compete. We don't want to have competitors. We want to be protected by the law and so on and so forth. Okay. So how about we make other aspects of our society just as structural? And by that I mean, to go back to money creation, the financing base of this SSE should be, in a way or another, whether it's with national currency or with various local currencies. I don't know exactly how to make them interoperable. That's your job. But that financing base should be made completely structural and protected from political vagaries. It should be a constitutional right. I know that's naive again, but to me these are the topics, the meta topics, on which so much depends in the viability of in the actual empirical possibility of making something great like the UN resolution actually work in society. If not, then there will always be people who are strategizing on a day-to-day basis, bricoler and so on, which is great. It requires enormous talent and patience and so on. But we need to also think about the larger framework conditions which make people like your life a bit easier, I think. So
thank
you,
I think
Christian. That's my job.
Thank you.
Thanks. For whatever is regarding the digital environment that we have, for me it's more comfortable talking about tactics than strategy, because I think that most of the solutions, they exist. The problem is how to use them, how to get them. So from the strategy part, and it's a bit a cliche, but of course the only things that we may do is education, is a better education to computers, to software, to understand. It seems stupid to say it, but most of the programs that I've seen, they do not focus on giving people learning deep understanding of what they are doing. In fact, it looks still like something very obscure or magic, but to understand what's happening when we send a picture by email, for example, what is really going on, how the software that you're using is doing, what's happening when you save a file on a USB key, and to have a deep understanding first, but then also on discovering all the other tools that are quite different than the one that you are using it. Of course, you will perhaps not use them on a company job, but they exist and you can learn a lot. And I think that's working on the computer science, IT programs at all age for all kind of people can be very, very, very rewarding in the near future.
Thank you. You don't want to add something?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. You don't have to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. UNRIST started using the term transformation from the early 2000. And at that time, not many agencies liked the term transformation because they thought it implied revolution. They don't like revolution. I mean, they like status quo. It changed in 2015. As you know, transformation is the word of the SDGs. This process shows two things. One, the UN system is not homogeneous. You can find your allies. Second, there is evolution of concept, idea, and practice. So we always have to be hopeful. We have to think about the kind of a bright future, different from the kind of a current situation we have. With that, I think maybe I can talk about how to change policymakers or stakeholders' mind or practice from the perspective of social and solidarity economy. I think basically we have to change everything from the concept to the practice, theories, strategies. But I also want to emphasize that we are living in kind of plural societies. That means we are living in an economy with diverse groups with different ideas. They have different values. We have to show the kind of respect for others too. Even neoliberals have their own ideas about justice, their own ideas about values, future as well. And we cannot get rid of them like revolutionary forces. We cannot kill them. That means we have to find a way to communicate with other groups or with different groups with different ideas. I mean, that is related to our colleagues' idea about how to develop our discourse about SSE. And my colleague from Social and Solidarity Entrepreneurs, you talked about strategies and tactics. I think we need both. And we need strategies and tactics for engagement rather than isolation. I think that is the important thing. I would say same thing in front of social entrepreneurs. I will talk about their strategy to engage with social and solidarity economy. I believe diverse groups have diverse strategies for engagement to communicate with other groups with different ideas and values. We can change the world. Otherwise, we cannot change it. I mean, those groups without those kind of strategies and tactics will become dinosaurs or, will be Galapagos. And I don't want SSE to become a Galapagos or dinosaur. So we have to think about strategy to engage with, policymakers, different groups with different ideas. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. I think we can thank all the speakers, the panel. Thanks a lot for joining. Thank you a lot for joining and sharing your work, your thought about SSE, and I think between tactic and strategy, how also I think RIPESS members and of course the businesses, organizations that we all gather here in Geneva, but of course in a lot of other regions in Europe, how we can also use the tools, develop and make the concept come to the ground. And I think it was very interesting to have this a bit more high-level roundtable today to also discuss about the concept and the tools that you do develop or research on your own specific fields. I want also now to thank Pierre is gone, but Tariq is in the box. I think he's still here. Also yeah, thank you Tariq. Yeah, he's here. In order to capture also the discussion. So thank you a lot, Tariq. I want of course to thank Maria Francesca. That did a great job. Thanks a lot. That was from far the best translation we had today, so thanks a lot. I want also to thank a special thank to Jean Rossio that for RIPESS shaped the two roundtables, this one tonight and also the one tomorrow. So thanks a lot for the work and the conceptualization behind it. And so tonight it was about concept and tools in order to how we can think of the UN resolution. Tomorrow, same hour, we will discuss about how do we implement public policies, for instance, in the Canton of Geneva, but also in Switzerland, regarding political actors, for instance, the mayor of Geneva, but also other actors that will join us tomorrow night. Sorry. Now it's finished. We have a little. It's not a big aperitif, just some wine and juice over there. But I think that will do. That will be great. Thank you, everyone.